Greetings and welcome to the stream. Hello, Mudshark. Good to have you. And, for those who are watching not live, well, you get the advantage of being able to set the playback speed to something like 2x, because honestly, there's a lot of thinking and hemming and hawing, and you can skip forward, and that's great. But the advantage for folks who are here live with me on Twitch is you get to chat, and especially you get to help me when I run into trouble. What we are doing, hello Javier, good to have you. What we are doing, just to set context for the others who are probably watching the recording, is trying to convert a project. Let's see if I can even find this. Let's see. This one. My view controller presentation spy. It is partially Objective-C and partially Swift, which has not been a problem until people wanted it available in Swift Package Manager. Swift Package Manager is okay if it's all Objective-C or all Swift, but it's not okay with a mix. And I'd like to provide it in Swift Package Manager because honestly, it's really so easy to use. And we were facing difficulties. Oh, we were facing difficulties with Swizzling, and I found the problem. Just to recap, we had, well, let me go to the bookmark in question. Right now, my tests are green. You can see that here. But if I change this to the new thing, this Swift version, the tests fail. Not only do they fail, they do worse than fail. They crash. You know what? Let's fix that first. Crash. Tests shouldn't crash on you, except it's okay sometimes for a test to crash, but generally, no. So let's fix that. It's crashing because of this force unwrap. So let's change that. Let me see if there's anything outstanding in here. Okay, it's just the change I made. All right. So we want to use XCT unwrap instead of a force unwrap. And to do that, test needs to change to throws. Actually, this has been a point of debate with some people, as now I mark all tests with throws. All of them. By default. This, you can see, this doesn't. Most of them don't because it's kind of old. Why have I switched? I've switched because I don't want to have to make this change in order to use XCT unwrap. It's that simple. For that reason, I also have switched my my setup and teardown to always use setup with error and teardown with error. Same reason. It's not because I need it, it's because there's no harm. Why not have the test case fail? That would be another way to do it. Let me quickly show you what that looks like. So if we copy, just copy that out and say, you mean like this? Do like a guard? This is how I would have done it before. Nil pointer, don't you know? And not just fail, but you have to return. And this should also work in the sense that the test will fail immediately and not crash, and that works fine. This is what I used to do. But for the case of unwrapping, it's just easier to get that same functionality with this line instead of these lines. Try to unwrap it, and if it doesn't unwrap, it will throw, and it will tell you why. So, in fact, the failure, like I got more information from the unwrap here. Just a little bit more. The failure, it only fails with whatever you put in there. Of course, you could put in any message you want. Nil pointer trying to unwrap. Whatever. So that works, but it's just easier. Just easier to do it this way. So let's check this in. This is a good test change. I'm not going to check in this one yet. Just this test. Keep test from crashing. That's good. All right. Yeah, it's one of the reasons I've now switched to throws everywhere, is just because it makes it easy to use unwrap. The other one that I use a lot is skip if. That's to, temporarily disable a test. I used to go like this, which eliminates it from, as far as like, XE test will no longer see it and therefore no longer run it. It will still have to compile, which is good. And that's what I used to do. But now I do this. Funny thing about this version, skip if true. It's like, can't you just say throw? Throw an XCT, skip. With like that. That's what I would kind of wish I could do instead of skip if true. The problem with this is this causes a warning. This introduces this warning that, hey, there's a throw without a condition. And so the rest of the code is dead code. It's never going to be executed. And I get that warning, which increases the number of warnings. Not great. So instead of that, I do it this way because it's just smart enough. Hello and welcome, Devuzan. Glad to have you. Where in the world are you, if you don't mind saying? I'm in California in the United States, and folks tend to watch from all over. Good to have you. Welcome. We're, well, just follow along and ask any questions you want. So that's a little bit of an aside of why I make things, why I declare my tests throws these days. It gives me try unwrap, it gives me try skip if for free. Otherwise, I have to go back and do it. All right. Now, this means we have the failing test. And the test, here's the thing that you may recall during debugging, that I'm trying to swizzle. Let me go back to the actual code. Where is it? Here it is. So this is the swizzling I'm trying to express inside of here. And, or rather, not this one. This is the Objective-C swizzling I'm trying to express in here. And when last time we worked through in the debugger, because the tests fail, clearly, and when I set it back to Objective-C, it's like it passes, and what was different? The thing that was different was that the class self here in the failing case is NSObject, but when it was working, it was not NSObject, it was UI alert controller, which makes more sense because that's what we're trying to swizzle in this file. And then, you know, we puzzled over it, I couldn't see it, and as soon as I stepped away and tried to imagine how am I going to how am I going to express this for on Twitter to get help, then immediately I knew the answer. Right? Rubber ducking. It's a funny thing. And I'll show you what it is. And the answer is, like, why is it NSObject instead of UI alert controller? And look at this. Here's NSObject and here's NSObject. And that I put this in because this extension is an extension on NSObject. This is my Swift habits getting in my way. Let me explain. I think, Javier, you mentioned that Objective-C syntax just looked, you know, weird, all the brackets. It's a little funny. Let me see if this is still working. No, it's not working. Boo. I don't know why my camera craps out like that. Okay, no camera. Never mind. We'll do it in code. So in Objective-C, all these weird brackets, what are they? And how are they different from Swift? And they are different in general. Hang on, I'm just trying to create some blank lines here. Okay, so here in Swift, we're used to calling sort of object method or like this, right? And in Swift and Objective-C, it looks like this. It gets wordy because actually it would tend to look like that. There is, or I should say there can be a difference between these two. These days in Swift, often it's not using it. How to explain this? We tend to think that you're calling a function. This is especially if you come from another language like C++ or C. And this just, and in Swift, this is like, okay, I'm going to call this function that's inside of here. And it's like you're poking directly at the thing and declaring, I am calling this function. That is not how Objective-C works. Objective-C, every time you see brackets, that is a message to an object saying, hey, do this thing. And the Objective-C runtime gets involved as the object, whatever it is, tries to figure out, okay, I've been asked to do this thing. Hello, how am I supposed to do this thing? The Objective-C runtime says, let me find the proper method and who implements it and what to call here. And it does this layer of indirection. Where this is important with the alert controller, and I'm sorry, I should get back to the code here instead of preaching, because you want to see the problem solved, right? Let's go to here. And this is something also that can be confusing, is here is in the Objective-C side, the Objective-C version, here is self. What is that? And when you're coming from Swift, and even for folks who are used to Objective-C, it's easy to think, self is the object. But which object? There's a difference between the plus and the minus. Here's a minus. Here's a minus. That is a method on the object, on the instance. But when it's plus, it's a method on the class. That is, you're sending the class this method, this message. So self here is not just like, I want to call myself. It is actually like because it's a class method, it's whatever class you are. I'm not explaining this very well, but bear with me. Whatever class you are, wherever you are in the class hierarchy, self on a class method will be the class. And here I'm sending messages to NSObject, because this is actually going through the Objective-C runtime. It is not just saying a static method. So this is not a static method. It's an Objective-C class method. So all that to say, let's get this right. I want to talk to the UI alert controller and tell it to replace a method. Let's try this. Fingers crossed. But I've done it before, and the tests pass. So that was a little roundabout. Sorry to get preachy there, but I wanted to explain. So it works. Whoops. Let me get rid of this comment. Not sure what's happened to my layout here. Oh, I don't want that. Oh, okay. I got confused by the what was what inside of here. Yeah, this is laid out funny, so I'm gonna just have app code relay it out, reformat it for me. So this works. My tests pass, and I'm gonna commit this, but not the switch, the parallel change to Swizzle 2. So let me say what to call this? UI alert controller now works. All right. Javier, thanks for the rundown. I often find the why more interesting than the fix. Love learning how languages work. Yeah. It is subtle that basically in Objective-C, which means it affects us when we call, in Swift, we call an Objective-C, anything marked Objective-C, is that it goes through an indirection. It is not a direct call. It goes through the runtime, which decides what function to call based on the message. And it works. All right. Which means we should be able to, I should be able to commit this just fine. Because I'm happy. The tests pass. So I'm going to do this in a few steps here. In parallel change refactoring, we have the old thing. We lay down the new thing side by side. We get it working. Then we cut over to the new thing. We've done this here by calling Swizzle2. We can now get rid of the old thing. To get rid of it, let me find it. I should be able to... Actually, does it now show nothing is calling it? Let's do a delete. This is a nice thing I miss. Is that app code when you're working in Objective-C actually shows, because this is grayed out, that this is unused. I should mention that I finally found a tool for stripping out unused code in Swift. It is called Periphery. I'll put this in the link. Check this out. So Periphery, it takes a little tweaking because, it can get false negatives. But you adjust it a little bit, and it is mostly good. I have seen it be really useful to hack through a bunch of code where it looks like, okay, this is called by this, this is called by that, but it analyzes way back to what is calling the thing in the first place? Nothing. So this entire dependency tree is dead, and it identifies that. Really nice. But here, because we are in Objective-C, happen to be in Objective-C, I can say, let's do a safe delete. It's going to look for everywhere. And the usages are potentially unsafe. Oh yeah, that's the one I want to change to Swizzle2, right? So let's rerun that. Oh, come on. Here, I'm trying to show off. There we go. And let me make sure it was also deleted from the header, which it was. And this should still pass. So I've laid down, we're now using the new code. Nothing was calling the old code. I can remove it, and the tests pass. So this is remove old UI alert. Remove Objective-C. Like that. And now I can do one more. I'm like, how did that get so big? Oh yeah. Now I can rename this. And unfortunately, it shows that this is not called. Is that right? That's not correct. No, it's not saying that. But why is it grayed out? I don't know. I guess that's just the color. Anyway, I can now do a rename. So this much is the same as in Xcode. Say, let's go look for that. So I called it Swizzle 2 because it was the new one. Failed. It didn't pick it up for some reason. This is why you should always run tests, even for automated refactorings. They can fail. All right, so that's good. We finally did one. Yay. And now we have our learning. That was the tough part. Don't believe this red line there. That's lying. That was the tough part. We have successfully converted one thing. Let's have a look at what's left. All right. So we have more to go, but now we're on the way. I feel really good about this. Swizzle. I'm just reviewing how it looks now in Swift. So we have an extension on the alert controller that adds a class function similar to a static, but not the same. And it calls replace class method. We really puzzled through how to express these selectors. I was grateful for the help last time. So we replace the initializer with our funky new one. So this is the next thing. So this is the new initializer. And then we also have this getter, which is faked out. And those are the next steps. Here's the new initializer, new meaning the one that gets swizzled in. And there's probably, yeah, there's the getter for it. What's with your formatting? Seems to have lost its brain a little bit about the target conditionals. I wonder if that's because the target conditionals are not being imported somewhere. Let me do a quick check on this. So this is target conditionals.h. What if I put that into the header file, the framework header for view controller presentation spy? Like that. Question is, will that help? I don't know. Doesn't seem to have helped. I think app code has sort of lost its brain a little bit. Oh, well. Oh, I'm going to revert that change. And let's continue. Same pattern. Here is the initializer. Interesting. I mean, it's got an initializer. It also has this convenience class initializer. Basically, a class method that calls the initializer. It's just a convenience. But I wonder what's calling that. I guess this is. I guess it's this, because this is yep. If you're getting confused, and I got confused there for a second, it's like, where's my code? Header files. Swift, we got rid of header files. I used to miss header files because it made it very easy to see what the public API was. Although learned from last time that's not as hard to see in Swift. You just have to go and in Xcode say, show me the generated version of the generated header or something like that. Although that might be only for headers. I thought there was a way to say, show me only the public API, and there probably is. You can probably tell me. All right, let's carry on. So let's do this. So here I'm going to jump to the actual code and grab it, and we'll stick it in to the Swift version. I'll just put it between comments there as a reference. Right? Looks like that. Let's go. Going by hand, this is another Obj-C class method. Func. I'm going to keep the same awkward naming, except this is not going to be with title, right? Because that gets absorbed in Swift. But I'm going to call it that so that give it that 2 there. Parallel change. Put down the new thing. The title is going to be an NS string, which gets bridged to string. And a message, which is also a string. And a preferred style, which is that. And it's not happy. Why is it not happy? Probably because this has a different name. It's like UI alert controller dot style or something like that. Oh, there it is. Oop. There. All right. I think that gives us the shell. Let me compile. I'm doing this manually because I can't use TCR in this project because of the funny shape of the code in as far as the directory structure goes. So this is good. I'm going to lay this down. This is going to be like this of that. All right. How's it going, y'all? So far, so good. I don't like how long this is. I do have my guideline here. Okay, question. Why are you setting the functions as Obj-C? I'm keeping them the same. And in order to swizzle them, they have to be Obj-C. Does that make sense? Swizzling relies on tricking out the Objective-C runtime, which has its logic for how to convert a message into a function call. And we're tricking that out. And so the Objective-C runtime has to be involved, and therefore this must be Obj-C. It's getting along. This is also long. Hello, Rick Lowe. Good to have you. Welcome for first time chat. I don't know if this is your first time here, but it's your first time saying something. Good to have you. And I'm curious where in the world you might be. I am in California in the United States. Where are you? Folks are from all over. Will the Obj-C disappear later? No, it won't. Will this change? I don't think this will change to a static either. I think it'll remain Obj-C class. Now, will I clean it up further beyond that? We'll see. Saturday night in the UK. Cheers. Good to have you. Yeah, I'm not going to worry about the string here. I can see it. You can see it. I mean the length of the line. Let's go. So this calls self alloc. This is where it's going to get a little funny. What are we doing? I'm not sure if we're going to need this intermediate convenience ultimately, because it just calls through to the proper initializer. In Objective-C, you had to say, tell the class to allocate an instance and then initialize. I'm not sure we need that. I'm not even sure quite what to say here. But basically, I want to call UI alert controller. Okay, I think we've hit another point. This is something we learned last time, is that I have to expose things. I have to expose this. Yeah, here, app code shows that this has, with these arrows, this one has a definition in the header file, but this one does not. So let me stick it in the header file, in the interface, like that. Now it's there. Now I should be able to call it. But what will its name be? I think one of the hardest parts of this is figuring out the naming. Let me just put it in. What do I expect it to be? I expect the with title to get swallowed up. This is what I expect, except it's to be an initializer. It needs to have that name. What to do? Objective-C has this initializer with a funky name. It is not just init, because that's how it worked. But in Swift, initializers are always named init. How do I even call this? Okay, now we've hit our next puzzle. Help. Ideas? This is the old name. What's the new name? That is, it's now exposed in the header, and so it'll get picked up. But it needs to have the proper Swift name. Is it mock? Is it something like this? It doesn't seem to know what that is. Multiple implementations. Well, that's interesting. That's not what I expected. Oh, here it is. There's a little tiny message down here, which I should be able to see if I hover over it. There we go. Ah, thank you. Apply the fix-it. There. Now, it returns. So I guess, I mean, doesn't it automatically return? All right, so we got the name right. I didn't notice the little messages down here. But now it says that this initializer is unused, which I find kind of funny. Oh, that's because it needs to return. Okay, this is getting too long now. Let me break this up. It needs to return. Actually, can't you do this for me? Yes, you can. Thank you. There. I think that does it. This will build. Okay. Now this really, nothing is calling this yet. I just wanted to make sure it builds. And in fact, I'm okay. No, let me put this in a fresh commit. I was about to squash it with an amend, but why? Why lose that information? Nothing calling it yet. All right, so here's the question. Can I call it? Here we go. QCO mock alert controller 2. And let's run the tests, and it did not work. Why didn't it work? Parameter name with title. Thank you. So I guess I wasn't doing a strict. I mean, no, it should be just title. All right, let's try that. Drum roll. Thank you, guys. Hooray! Progress. This is going a lot smoother. We just got a little hung up on naming there. So now this works. So this is now getting the Swizzle, the UI alert controller convenience init to new one. Right? So now I should be able to go to the old one. Which is this. Nothing is calling it. Do a safe delete, which also removes it from the header file. And I rerun the tests. I expect this to pass because the test should just keep passing. I shouldn't even say I expect this to pass because I'm not doing TDD. Keep it green. Keep it green. And it does. All right. So this is remove old convenience init. Now I should be able, last step, to come through, and we'll see if the rename is a little more successful this time. And is it Shift F6? It is. Remove that 2. Oh, it didn't pick it up. It did not pick it up. Oh, no, it did pick it up. It just had to do a little bit more analysis. There we go. And now we are renamed. And we're flying. Sweetness. Okay. This one is gone. All right, we are getting there. What's next? I'm not used to this coloring. It's throwing me off. That's because I'm using a theme I'm not used to for these. I normally use Darkula. I won't switch to light. You'll go blind if I switch to light now. But folks wanted Xcode dark, and it does a little different coloring. Also doesn't do the red squiggles. It shows a red underscore. I'll get used to it. Well, I'm about at time. I don't know if I'll be able to do this in the time that remains. Now, we still got some more in here. Well, we can start, see how far we get. Okay, so we've got now this initializer. And I want to bring this over. Oops. This, if nothing else, this will be where we continue. And that might... You know what? I think this is a good place to stop. Let's continue here. You may wonder what this is. This is a funny technique in refactoring to leave code that doesn't compile as a message to yourself so that you know where to pick up. If we were doing TDD, I would, like, the good place to stop would be to leave a failing test. Then when you come back to run tests, and it's instantly back into the context and go, oh yeah, we have a failing test, now we get it to pass. Easy. But with refactoring, we're not going into red, except by accident. We're staying in green. So this is a nice way to continue to have a marker, because if I try to build, it'll say blep. All right. Progress. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like the mysteries are starting to fade away, which is good. This should pick up and be able to make progress on this project next week. For those who are watching on YouTube, give it a like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. For those of you who are in the stream with me, thank you so much for joining me, as always. Thanks to the old folks with your contributions. Thanks to the new folks for coming by. And yeah, I'll see you next week.